What is up, guys? It is Robert at Gaming with Me, and welcome to a video talking about the video game A Knight's Quest. A Knight's Quest was developed by Sky9 Games and published by Curve Digital. Now, I have to thank 100% to them the fact that I actually got a review copy for this game, and that really fucking blows my mind. That's just that's so crazy. And I appreciate it so damn much. So, but again, it doesn't affect my opinion on this game, and I wanted to talk about the game because it looked interesting, and so the fact that I got offered the code, of course I was gonna take it. Like, why not? I wanted to play it anyway. And so, Knight's Quest. Let's talk about it. Is it any good? Well, I played it on Nintendo Switch, but it's also out on Xbox One, PC, and the Epic Game Store. I don't think it's out on Steam yet, or if it will be. No spoilers, no major spoilers for this game, but I will show some gameplay in the background that may be a little bit further than some people may say. I'll say it when that happens, but for right now, of course, no spoilers. I just want to talk about the game, my thoughts on it, and see if you should pick it up or not, to be honest. You play as this guy named Rusty. He's a knight, and he goes on a quest to stop things. You know, it's not a crazy story, and it doesn't need to be at all. But the highlight of it is kind of the story, not really the story, but the dialogue. The dialogue in this game is surprisingly really damn funny. I mean, for real, like the whole time, some of the best parts are just talking to characters because each character just has just funny dialogue. Ones that are very self-aware of itself and of the genre that it's in. And I think it's really damn funny, and a lot of times I laughed out loud, and that doesn't happen a lot for games for me, and so I gotta give it credit for that, and I think it was fantastic. The dudes that wrote this game, I give them huge props because they're really damn good writers when it comes to this, and I'd love to see what their next game, if they'll approach it as a comedy or not. But it's definitely a very comedic game. It's very much a comedic game. Now, by the look of it, a lot of people are going to look at this game and say Zelda ripoff. It's Zelda, and no, I mean, yeah, obviously it's very inspired by Zelda and stuff like that. It's not only maybe taking some inspiration from Zelda, but it actually is kind of a combination of a few genres. It's got some awesome ass platforming elements. So you got some really good world exploration, and then yeah, you got these Zelda-like dungeons that are actually really well designed. And those are some of the highlights of the whole game are the platforming. The world itself is really well designed. Again, they have a bunch of different variety of sections in this world that are, snow and just normal grass and a desert. Each one is very designed for a purpose, a path where you'd have to go and lead you to the next location. And I think it was really fucking interesting to me that I was like, holy shit, you could tell and you could see what they were really thinking for every single step of the way towards your progress in each world. They really do map it out quite good, and I like that a lot. There's never a confusing moment as where to go, obviously because you have an indication and stuff, but even though it is technically kind of open world with multiple paths, it always felt very natural, the progression of each world and each terrain that you travel through. And I thought it was really damn cool the way they did it. It is very much a mission-based game. You'll follow an objective, naturally leading you to a dungeon, and then the dungeon will kind of just say, hey, complete your dungeon and fight a boss, obviously, But a lot of times you'll be kind of running back and forth in places, which actually is kind of a complaint that I have, where I feel like it tries to pattern out the game length, because it can take kind of a while to go from one section to another, especially when you are taking maybe a different path. And the problem I have with that is that you'll go through the whole world and you'll think the game is over, but you're actually only halfway done. And then you have to go through the whole world again, and I thought that was pretty frustrating, because there are these warp points throughout the map that you can't use until halfway through the game. And it's so odd because you've already been to those places. Oh, but fuck you, you can't use these warp points until you come back, when you're not really going to go back there again. And it's like, well, that's kind of dumb. You know what I mean? It's like, that second time around made it that much more tedious. As cool as the world is, I've already seen it. I've already walked around the whole thing again, having to do that all again just isn't the greatest way of making me want to go back to an area or have to go back to an area. And that just became quite tedious. The game is definitely actually longer than I thought. I beat it in probably just under 20 hours. Probably just. It was probably like 18. I don't know exactly. You know, under a little bit under, tiny bit under 20 hours. And I was quite surprised. I'm not gonna lie, because again, halfway through, I felt like I was done, but there was a whole nother chunk to it. And I kind of view it as both a positive and a negative. And this is why. My biggest, most hugest complaint with this game is the fact that it is quite buggy. Very buggy, in fact. I don't know if it's just the Nintendo Switch version, but I have seen, you know, footage of the PS4 version from, sometimes I would look up some guides, you know, from this one guy, and he was playing the PS4 version, and there's some times that it would crash for him, and I had a crash. I had a crash on me, you know, and that's the first time I think my Switch, a game ever crashed on Switch for me, and that was quite frustrating. It's odd because this game, there are so many really fantastic highlights. I'm talking about amazing highlights that are AAA quality, that I'm like, this is fucking awesome, and I can't believe that a small indie studio made this. But everything around it, you're like, oh, I understand that a small indie studio made this, is because of how just not tight a lot of this is. It honestly right now still feels like an unfinished product. There is a lot of bugs, and I'll show in the background a lot of these bugs. I would just record every time I encountered a bug. You know, I would save it through the Switch, and there's a lot, and they were so frustrating all the fucking time. You mix the very buggy mess with a pretty bad combat system, it set up for some very, very frustrating moments. I'm talking about just fucking annoyed, yelling at the TV like, just work, just begging that the thing will work. I'm not even gonna lie. The reason I say this combat is broken, it technically isn't, but it could essentially be broken, because it's your basic combat, you know, kind of Zelda, just fighting, swinging your sword, nothing crazy combos. That's fine, I'm cool with that. But the problem is that these enemies don't have any knockback. You will get knocked back, and if you get knocked back, you'll get turned into a ragdoll for a few seconds and just stay stagnant, and then he'll come back up rusty. And if an enemy also happens to hit you, you just start racking up damage, and you almost get punished for wanting to fight close up. You almost have to fight far away, which is dumb. You have a fucking sword. Everything is supposed to be, you know, close up, and unfortunately, you basically get punished for doing that, because if it's even more than one enemy, if it's two enemies, you get fucked around really bad. There's these skeleton guys that will start to spin around, right? They'll start to spin around at you, and that's fine. Okay, you dodge them. The dodging doesn't necessarily work very well, because as you do your sword animation, you usually kind of like a Dark Souls or a Zelda, or basically any dodge mechanic, Final Fantasy 15, whatever. As you're going through the animation, you know there's that time that you could roll and dodge. You don't feel that type of animation in this game. It almost has to like process the swinging of the sword, stand still, and then move back, and that kills every momentum that you ever had in your combat. And so you almost have to plan ahead of the fact that you're going to get hit. What in any other game you normally probably wouldn't get hit, because you know you're swinging, dodge. You know what I'm saying? This would go swing, 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 dodge, and unfortunately that kills everything in the combat. And it doesn't help that the enemies are such a bitch to fight. All of them, every single one is such a pain. If it's one-on-one, that's fine, but they absolutely love to throw 7, 8, 10 enemies all at once. And that's just so annoying because a lot of times it doesn't work properly. You'll have these spinning skeletons that will spin at you, and then they'll spin at you literally a millisecond after, where you can't actually dodge or roll or even hit them. How am I supposed to fight the guy if I can't even hit him? He's constantly spinning. They don't have patterns. I feel like generally there must have been something where I tried to notice a pattern for these skeletons, but they'll just keep spinning. And I almost feel like it was a bug. I don't know. I almost feel like it was a bug. I have no clue, to be honest. But you literally cannot get close to 7 skeletons. It's just not possible. You will get hit. So you have to stand far away, constantly throw fireballs, and just hope they eventually get hit. You eventually get powers like able to throw fire, able to throw snow and wind. Some enemies will have specific armor on them that can only be attacked by using fire or a wind or a snowball, you know. And so the problem is that you'll have this guy that's spinning, and every time he spins, he regenerates his armor. And so you'll shoot the fireball, it goes away for a split second, and he spins automatically again. And I swear, he will not stop spinning. And I'm like, okay, but it's like the AI has no pattern. It just constantly just randomizes into spin, 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 spin. The enemies and the way you fight them is just awful because it feels like you're not actually hitting them. It just feels like you're touching them, and eventually they'll just, you know, disappear. And it's such a shame because I love the platforming sections and I really enjoy the world exploration, and those things can be huge highlights. The dungeons, the puzzle solving, all that is really, really damn good. But a lot of it, to be honest, is pretty fucking broken. There are times where I'll be versing a bunch of enemies at once, which is a lot of times, which is so frustrating. But I'll have it where I'll get kind of smushed in between a bunch of them, and I'll fall when in all reality I'm not actually falling, and I'll glitch fall, and he'll go whoa, and that's when how he falls, he like yells whoa, when in all reality I'm not falling. But it's almost like the game doesn't detect that, oh, you know, your enemies, there's too many on the fucking screen and I have no place to breathe, or it's ridiculous, and it would just piss me off to no end. There's one boss fight in this game that is, I would genuinely say, unplayable. It's ridiculous because, again, the man has no damn pattern. That boss battle, this one that I was versing later on, you're in this fire kind of pit, and you're just walking, you have to like run around this like course, and it makes it to this certain view so you can see him, but then the depth perception is totally fucked, and his moves are so random. There's no actual pattern to it, and there obviously some attacks just don't work with the actual environment. You will go onto a rail, which you could grind on rails, fun little thing, but if I'm about to go on grind on rails and he hits me, and I'm on the rail, it will hit me off of the rail, which it's not supposed to do. And it will put me back all the way to the beginning, and I'll lose health because of that. Or there's times where, you know, there'll be spikes, and then he'll bring up lava, and my body is just floating in the air, and I can't do anything. I'm just helpless. And then as I go back down, he might spawn some more lava to pull up. And the problem is that it's just random, because I'm not even getting injured at that point. Like, it doesn't tack on extra damage. It's just me being ragdolled and floating, and it's just broken. It's a mess. And there was times where the camera literally couldn't focus at all, and it started shifting everywhere. Like, the camera itself was broken, and it was so frustrating. And I was genuinely yelling at the TV. I'm like, dude, this is bullshit. And it sucks because I had a lot of fun with the game, but about 40% of the game is really frustrating because of the combat. The combat kills, and a lot of the time that's what triggers a lot of these glitches, is the combat. There was like this light glitch where it was like flashing, and I exited the game, came back, and it still had that, and that was literally borderline unplayable. I was about to just end there. I'm like, I can't do this. But then I exited, like, I went to the Switch home screen and came back and it was fine. So that's fine. And luckily, that section is really fucking cool. The whole setup of these dungeons, every time you go into a dungeon, is really damn awesome. And it's such a shame because it's like I kind of call A Knight's Quest a beautiful mess. It's made by a smaller team, yes, I get it. And so it may not be perfect, but I can't give that an excuse. In the end of the day, just don't release the game then yet, or you have to have some major updates. And I've heard, I've looked it up, and apparently they're not updating the game. They're acting like there's no glitches. There are a ton. There's a massive, you can make a massive list of bugs that are just in this game that just ruins your enjoyment with it. And it's so frustrating because, again, there is a lot to love. The dialogue, the world, the platforming, the dungeons. But a lot of this is so bugged and boggled down by the combat that you have to forcefully do, because there's a lot of sections, well, they will corner you in a square and you will have to fight like 3 waves of enemy and then you could progress. And that's horrible. That's not a good game design, is when you have to force enemies onto them. Here's 20 enemies, try to survive. Oh, by the way, they barely work. It's just, it's so frustrating, and I can't recommend A Knight's Quest in a way. The game is $25. In some ways I could say, you know what? If you could look over the combat and you could slowly, because to be fair, I had to rush, you know, I had to get this video out. So, you know, I was crunching the time, so it does make it more frustrating when I constantly die over bullshit. But if you can look past some of its issues, you could potentially have a really fun game in your hands. Again, you know, you'd probably have fun with the platformer and stuff in the dungeons. But as of right now, I think they really desperately need to patch out so much stuff. So much. There's a ton in the list. And unfortunately, it's just an unfinished, unpolished game. And I can't really recommend it. It's good. That's the thing. It's good. But it's like a beautiful mess. And I know I ranted a lot. And again, I don't know, maybe I'll be blocked now from from ever receiving a game with them. But, you know, I gotta criticize what I played. And what I played was a lot of broken stuff. But also a lot of beautiful, funny and entertaining and cool stuff. So I'm very split on it. It's cool, but it's also fucked. So yeah, guys, that's my rant slash review slash impressions. I don't like to call it a straight up review, but you know, impressions of A Knight's Quest. Pick it up if you want. You know, I gotta say again, I think you would have a lot of fun, but you'd also be quite frustrated, and you'd want to, you know, it lacks that polish, and it desperately needs that polish in the combat and in the overall package department. So yeah, guys, again, shout out to Sky9 Games and Curve Digital for actually, I guess, giving me the code to, I guess, kind of not recommend the game, but you know, it's I gotta be honest, dude, you know what I mean? And sometimes you gotta be brutally honest, and this one, it really frustrated the hell out of me. I enjoyed it. There was times where I was laughing and having a ton of fun, and I was like, yeah, this is great, but there was times where I just wanted to give up on the game, and it's just, it's so two completely different things. I'm so torn on it, because again, I could see it being like right now my number 9 game of the year, you know, but at the same time, I don't know if I could give it, because it's also kind of broken. So I don't know, it's odd, you know. And so let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. And yeah, guys, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Peace.
Ticket clock is ticking, may not be pippin'. Also trying not to be breaking like Clyde. I also try breaking my limit, not timid, but I know my time is finite. I'm just striving to get under that limelight. Is it a fantasy that has some fancy seats? take a life by trying to make my name a heavyweight. Headlining shows across the country, no matter the state. Ain't a piece of cake, but I prepare to play. It's a buck.